Did you know that Venezuela is home to the tallest waterfall on Earth, so immense that its waters often evaporate before reaching the ground? That within its borders occurs one of the world's most constant lightning storms, visible from hundreds of kilometers away and illuminating the sky almost every night of the year? Or that beneath its soil lie some of the largest oil reserves on the planet, alongside ancient tepuis, vast jungles, and Caribbean coastlines? Venezuela is much more than beaches and music. It is a land of extreme contrasts, natural wonders, and geographic mysteries few people know about. Get ready, because today you'll discover 50 astonishing facts about Venezuela that will completely change the way you see this extraordinary country. 50. The tallest waterfall on Earth. Let's start with a record so extreme it barely feels real. Venezuela is home to Angel Falls, the tallest uninterrupted waterfall on the planet. Water plunges more than 3,000 feet from the top of Ollantaytambo, falling so far that it often turns into mist before reaching the jungle below. In the dry season, the waterfall can appear to vanish mid-air, while during heavy rains it becomes a roaring white ribbon slicing through the sky. This isn't just a waterfall, it's gravity on full display, deep in one of the most remote landscapes on Earth. 49. Stone islands in the sky. Angel Falls exists because of the tepuis, massive flat-topped mountains that rise suddenly from the rainforest of southern Venezuela. These formations are among the oldest exposed rocks on the planet, dating back nearly 2 billion years. They are so ancient they existed long before the Amazon rainforest formed around them. Their sheer cliffs isolate the ecosystems on top so completely that many plants and animals evolved nowhere else. Each tepui is like a lost world, frozen in time and cut off from the rest of Earth. 48. A national park the size of a country. Those tepuis and waterfalls sit inside Canaima National Park, one of the largest protected areas on Earth. The park is roughly the size of Belgium and contains rainforests, savannas, rivers, sandstone plateaus, and hundreds of waterfalls. Entire regions inside the park remain rarely visited and barely studied. Some rivers flow for miles without ever seeing a permanent human settlement. Canaima is not just a park, it is a continent-scale wilderness hiding inside one country. 47, where one of South America's great rivers is born. From these remote highlands emerges the Orinoco River, one of the most important rivers on the continent. Its source lies deep in the Parima Mountains near the Brazilian border, a region so isolated that it remained unknown to the outside world until the 20th century. From there, the Orinoco flows across Venezuela for thousands of kilometers, shaping plains, forests, and wetlands before reaching the Atlantic. This river is not just water moving downhill, it is the geographic backbone of the nation. 46. A river that connects two oceans. The Orinoco hides one of the strangest hydrological features on Earth. In southern Venezuela, part of its water escapes through the Caciquiare Canal, a natural river that flows into the Amazon basin. This creates a rare and direct connection between two of the largest river systems on the planet. A single drop of rain can begin its journey toward the Caribbean or the Atlantic, depending on where it falls. Few places on Earth physically link continents' waters the way Venezuela does. 45. The lightning capital of the world. Travel north and the geography turns electric. Over Lake Maracaibo, lightning storms rage more frequently than anywhere else on Earth. Known as the Catatumbo lightning, storms can flash hundreds of times per hour, up to 200 nights a year. Warm air rising from the lake collides with cool winds from the Andes, creating a perfect storm machine. For centuries, sailors used the constant glow as a natural lighthouse. Even from space, the lightning is impossible to miss. 44. A coastline shaped by two seas. Venezuela's northern edge stretches along the Caribbean Sea and reaches the Atlantic Ocean in the east, creating one of the most diverse coastlines in South America. Turquoise bays, coral islands, mangrove forests, and muddy river deltas all exist within the same country. This mix of warm Caribbean waters and sediment-rich Atlantic currents produces wildly different coastal landscapes just hours apart. 43. Caribbean islands made of coral, not volcanoes. Unlike many Caribbean islands formed by volcanic activity, Los Roques is built entirely from coral. Over time, reef systems grew, broke apart, and accumulated into hundreds of low-lying islands surrounded by shallow, crystal-clear water. The archipelago feels fragile because it is. Storms, tides, and rising seas constantly reshape it. What you see today is a snapshot of a living structure still being built by the ocean itself. 42. A grassland that turns into an inland sea. Moving inland, the land suddenly opens up into the Llanos, one of the largest tropical grassland regions on Earth. During the rainy season, vast areas flood and transform into a shallow inland sea where fish swim between trees. During the dry season, the water disappears, leaving cracked soil and endless plains. This dramatic cycle fuels one of the richest wildlife regions in South America, where jaguars, anacondas, capybaras, and millions of birds depend on seasonal water. 41. One of the most biodiverse countries on the planet. This constant geographic change helps explain why Venezuela is one of the most biodiverse countries on Earth. Within its borders are Andes Mountains, Amazon rainforest, Caribbean islands, deserts, wetlands, and ancient plateaus. Few countries contain so many ecosystems packed into one place. In a single journey, it's possible to move from tropical beaches to cloud forests and then into high mountain terrain, all without leaving the country. 40. A real desert beside the Caribbean. One of the most surprising ecosystems in Venezuela lies along its northern coast. In the state of Falcón, the Médanos de Coro form a true desert of shifting sand dunes directly beside the sea. Strong winds constantly reshape the landscape, creating rolling dunes that look more like North Africa than South America. Cacti and heat-adapted wildlife dominate the region, proving that Venezuela's geography is far more than jungle and rainforest. 39. Glaciers near the equator. From desert heat, the land rises sharply into the Andes. Venezuela is home to some of the northernmost tropical glaciers in the world. Peaks like Pico Bolívar rise high enough to support ice, despite their proximity to the equator. While climate change has drastically reduced these glaciers, their long presence highlights just how extreme the elevation of the Venezuelan Andes truly is. 38. Mountains that control the rain. The coastal range runs parallel to the Caribbean coast and acts like a massive climate wall. Moist air from the sea rises against the mountains, releasing heavy rain on one side while leaving dry conditions on the other. This rain shadow effect explains why lush cloud forests and arid landscapes can exist just a short distance apart. In Venezuela, mountains do not just shape the land, they decide where life can thrive. 37. A delta that never stands still. In eastern Venezuela, the Orinoco River finally fans out into one of the largest deltas in the Americas. Instead of a single river mouth, hundreds of channels spread across a shifting maze of islands and wetlands. The land here is constantly being built and destroyed by sediment and water. Entire communities live on stilts above this moving landscape, adapting to geography that refuses to stay still. 36. Some of the oldest rocks on Earth at the surface. Much of southern Venezuela sits on the Guiana Shield, a massive block of ancient continental crust. These rocks are among the oldest on the planet, and unlike in many regions, they are exposed at the surface. This geological stability over billions of years explains why the Tepuy still exist today. While surrounding land eroded away, these ancient formations endured. 35. Rivers of different colors that refuse to mix. Venezuela's rivers often run side by side in dramatically different colors. Some are dark like tea, stained by organic material from forests. Others are pale and muddy, loaded with sediment. Still others are crystal clear, flowing over bare rock. These rivers can meet without immediately mixing, creating visible boundaries between ecosystems that support completely different forms of life. 34. Rivers as highways through the jungle. In large parts of southern Venezuela, rivers are the only roads. Dense rainforest and rugged terrain make traditional infrastructure nearly impossible. Boats replace cars, and water levels dictate travel, trade, and daily life. Entire cultures formed around the rhythm of rivers, proving that in this region, geography doesn't just influence society, it defines it. 33. A land shaped by time, not constant earthquakes. Unlike the Pacific edge of South America, Venezuela experiences relatively little seismic activity. Its dramatic landscapes were shaped slowly by erosion rather than constant tectonic collisions. Wind, rain, and rivers carve valleys and cliffs over immense spans of time. This long stability allowed ecosystems to evolve in isolation, contributing to the country's remarkable biodiversity. 32. Mountains that create their own weather. Many Many Venezuelan mountains generate localized weather patterns. Moist air rises quickly along steep slopes, producing frequent clouds and rain. On Tepuy summits, clear skies can vanish into fog within minutes. Two locations just a few kilometers apart can experience completely different conditions, making Venezuela's climate as layered as its geography. 31. Where South America meets the Caribbean. Geographically, Venezuela sits at a crossroads. Its northern coast ties it to the Caribbean world, while its southern regions belong firmly to the Amazon and Guyana landscapes. This position creates a blend of ecosystems rarely found in a single country. Venezuela is not just part of South America, it is where multiple geographic identities collide and coexist. Before continuing, be sure to subscribe and leave a like to become an expert on the geography of our world. 30. A mountain range hiding above the Caribbean. Just when it feels like Venezuela has shown all its extremes, the land rises again along the coast. The coastal range runs parallel to the Caribbean Sea, forming steep mountains only minutes from the shoreline. In some places, these peaks climb so abruptly that you can stand on a beach and look straight up at cloud-covered slopes. This range doesn't just add drama to the scenery, it shapes rainfall, ecosystems, and even city locations, forcing major urban centers like Caracas to squeeze into narrow valleys between mountains and sea. 29. A capital city trapped by geography. Caracas is one of the few capital cities in the world completely boxed in by mountains on one side and the ocean on the other. The city sits in a narrow valley, with the massive Avila mountain wall separating it from the Caribbean just a few kilometers away. This geography creates dramatic temperature differences between the coast and the city, but it also limits expansion. Caracas didn't grow outward freely. It was forced to grow upward and inward, shaped tightly by the land itself. 28. A rainforest that climbs into the clouds. As you move up the slopes of Venezuela's mountains, the environment transforms again. Lowland rainforest gives way to cloud forest, where mist clings to trees almost constantly. These forests are dripping with moss, orchids, and epiphytes, creating a dense green world suspended between earth and sky. The constant moisture allows species to thrive that cannot survive anywhere else. These forests act as natural water factories, capturing moisture from passing clouds and feeding rivers below. 27. Rivers born from fog. Those cloud forests are not just beautiful, they are essential. Many of Venezuela's rivers begin not as springs or snowmelt, but as condensed fog. Moist air rolling over mountain ridges turns into water that drips steadily into streams. This slow, constant supply feeds rivers even during dry seasons. In a very real sense, Venezuela's water begins in the air before it ever touches the ground. 26. The Andes that reach the tropics. The Venezuelan Andes are the northernmost extension of the massive Andean mountain chain. While most people associate the Andes with Peru or Bolivia, these mountains stretch all the way into Venezuela, bringing steep valleys, sharp peaks, and alpine environments into the tropics. This is where snow once existed just a short drive from palm trees. It's a reminder that latitude alone doesn't define climate. Elevation can completely rewrite it. 25. A lost world of alpine grasslands. Above the cloud forests, the landscape shifts again into the Paramo. This high-altitude grassland exists only in a narrow band of elevation and feels completely disconnected from the lowlands below. Temperatures swing wildly between day and night, and vegetation adapts with thick leaves and water-storing structures. Walking through a Paramo feels like stepping onto another planet, one shaped by cold nights, intense sun, and constant wind. 24. Glacial valleys carved in the tropics. Long before modern climate shifts, glaciers carved deep valleys into Venezuela's highest mountains. These glaciers shaped U-shaped valleys, sharp ridges, and bowl-like basins that still define the terrain today. Even though most ice has vanished, the land remembers. The smooth valley walls and steep drops tell a story of ice in a place most people assume was always warm. 23. A country defined by water movement. From glaciers and fog-fed streams, water flows downward into rivers that dominate Venezuela's geography. The country's river systems are so extensive that they divide the land into natural regions. Travel routes, settlement patterns, and even cultural differences often follow watershed boundaries. In Venezuela, rivers don't just drain the land, they organize it. 22. A delta that breathes with the tide. Nowhere is this more obvious than in the Orinoco Delta. Here, fresh water from the continent collides with tidal forces from the Atlantic. The delta expands and contracts daily as tides push saltwater inland and retreat again. Mangroves thrive in this shifting balance, forming dense forests that protect the coast and create nurseries for fish. The land itself seems alive, inhaling and exhaling with the ocean. 21. Forests that float. In the flooded forests of southern Venezuela, trees spend months each year partially underwater. Fish swim through trunks, and nutrients circulate through water rather than soil. These forests are adapted to seasonal flooding so completely that dry conditions can be just as stressful as wet ones. It's an ecosystem that flips traditional ideas of land and water, blurring the line between forest and river. 20. Natural borders older than nations. Many of Venezuela's borders follow rivers, mountain ridges, or ancient geological boundaries. These natural divisions existed long before modern political lines were drawn. In some regions, crossing from one state to another means crossing into a completely different ecosystem, climate, and landscape. Geography laid the foundation long before humans added names to maps. 19. A land rich in underground worlds. Beneath Venezuela's surface lies an extensive system of caves and underground rivers, especially in limestone regions. Some caves stretch for kilometers, carved slowly by water over immense periods of time. Inside, unique ecosystems thrive in complete darkness, with species adapted to life without light. These underground landscapes are as complex as the terrain above them, just hidden from view. 18. Soils born from ancient forests. Much of Venezuela's fertile soil comes from the slow breakdown of rainforest vegetation over thousands of years. Unlike regions where glaciers deposited rich sediment, here fertility was built layer by fallen leaves, roots, and organic decay. This makes many soils incredibly productive but also fragile. Remove the forest and the nutrients vanish quickly. 17. Landscapes shaped by wind as much as rain. While water dominates much of Venezuela, wind plays a quiet but powerful role in shaping certain regions. Along the coast and in arid zones, constant winds sculpt dunes, erode rock, and influence plant growth. Even in tropical settings, wind can be a defining geological force, especially where rain is scarce. 16. A coastline that constantly redraws itself. Venezuela's coastline is not fixed. Waves, currents, and river sediment continually reshape beaches, sandbars, and islands. Some shorelines advance into the sea, while others retreat year by year. What looks permanent on a map may be temporary in reality. The coast is always in motion, even when it appears calm. 15. Islands that act as climate buffers. Venezuela's offshore islands do more than add beauty. They help absorb wave energy, protect coral reefs, and influence local weather patterns. By breaking up ocean currents and winds, these islands shape marine life and coastal conditions on the mainland. Geography here works as a protective system, not just scenery. 14. A meeting point of ecosystems. Few places in the world allow desert, rainforest, mountain, and marine ecosystems to exist within such close proximity. Venezuela's geography creates sharp transitions, sometimes within a single day's travel. This constant shifting of environments increases biodiversity, but also highlights how tightly balanced these systems are. 13. Natural corridors for wildlife migration. Mountain ranges, river valleys, and forest belts create natural corridors that animals have followed for thousands of years. These routes allow species to move between ecosystems in response to seasonal changes. Disrupting these corridors can fracture entire populations, showing how movement is as important as habitat itself. 12. A country that changes vertically, not just horizontally. In Venezuela, geography changes more dramatically with elevation than with distance. Traveling upward a few thousand feet can feel like crossing continents. Tropical heat fades into cool air, forests change shape, and wildlife shifts completely. Vertical distance matters here as much as horizontal miles. 11. A landscape that never repeats itself. All of these elements combine into a country where no two regions feel the same. From ancient plateaus to shifting deltas, from fog-fed rivers to desert dunes, Venezuela's geography refuses to settle into a single identity. Every transition reveals another layer, another story written into the land itself. Before moving on to the top 10, remember to join the geography family by subscribing to the channel and leaving your like. 10. A coastline where the mountains fall into the sea. As the journey narrows toward the end, Venezuela delivers one of its most dramatic visual contrasts. In many places along the northern coast, mountains do not gently fade into the ocean. They collapse into it. Steep cliffs and forested slopes plunge straight into Caribbean waters, creating hidden coves and isolated beaches accessible only by boat. This collision between mountain and sea compresses ecosystems into tight spaces, producing extraordinary biodiversity along a narrow strip of land. 9. A desert shaped by the ocean wind. Just beyond those coastal mountains, the climate flips again. In northern Venezuela, strong trade winds sweep inland from the Caribbean, stripping moisture from the land and sculpting vast dune fields. The Medanos de Coro are not static piles of sand. They are constantly moving, reshaped daily by wind patterns tied directly to ocean currents. Here, the sea doesn't just influence the coast, it builds a desert. 8. A lake that behaves like the sea. From dunes, the land drops into one of South America's most unusual bodies of water. Lake Maracaibo is technically a lake, but it functions more like a shallow inland sea. It connects directly to the Caribbean, experiences tidal influence, and supports marine and freshwater species side by side. Oil platforms dot its surface, storms roll across it like ocean squalls, and its scale is so large that from shore, the opposite side often disappears beyond the horizon. 7. A sky powered by geography. Above that vast lake, the atmosphere becomes the star. The Catatumbo lightning forms because geography forces warm, moist air to rise and collide with cooler mountain winds. This happens night after night, year after year, producing lightning on a scale unmatched anywhere on Earth. It is not random weather, it is a predictable, repeating consequence of how Venezuela's land and water interact. 6. Rivers that build land instead of erasing it. As water leaves the lake and flows eastward, it eventually feeds one of the most dynamic landscapes in the country. The Orinoco Delta is constantly growing, shrinking, and reshaping itself as rivers deposit enormous amounts of sediment. Instead of carving land away, these rivers create it. New islands appear, channels shift, and forests migrate with the flow. Here, geography is not ancient and fixed. It is being written in real time. 5. A rainforest standing on billion-year-old stone moves south again, and the terrain rises into the Guiana Shield, where rainforest grows directly on some of the oldest rock on Earth. These ancient stone surfaces resist erosion, forcing rivers to drop suddenly off cliffs and form waterfalls like Angel Falls. The forest may look timeless, but beneath it lies a foundation older than complex life itself. 4. Mountains that trap entire climates. The tepuis of southern Venezuela do more than rise above the jungle. They isolate weather systems. Clouds form, linger, and release rain on their summits while surrounding lowlands remain dry. Over millions of years, this isolation allowed life to evolve independently above the cliffs. Each plateau functions like a sealed climate capsule, cut off from the world below. 3. A grassland that turns predators into fishermen. Leaving the ancient highlands behind, the Llanos return for one final transformation. During the rainy season, the plains flood so completely that land predators adapt to aquatic life. Jaguars swim, snakes hunt in open water, and birds gather by the thousands. Geography forces behavior to change. Survival here depends not on strength alone, but on flexibility. 2. A country connected by water more than roads. Across Venezuela, rivers link regions that roads never could. In the south, they are the only reliable paths through dense forest. In the plains, they define settlement patterns. Along the coast, they carry nutrients that feed fisheries. Water moves people, food, and ecosystems more effectively than any human infrastructure ever built. 1. A land where extremes collide. All of these features lead to one final truth. Venezuela is not defined by a single landscape, but by the collision of many. Ancient stone meets living rainforest. Deserts touch tropical seas. Mountains rise beside coral reefs. Rivers split continents and connect oceans. Few places on Earth compress so many geographic extremes into one country. Venezuela is not just geographically diverse, it is geography in its most dramatic form. After learning these 50 facts about Venezuela, tell us, which one did you like best, or which one surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. Let's see how many of us chose the same fact, and if you think we've forgotten something or want to add your own interesting tidbit, we'd love to hear it. Your feedback helps us improve each video. Also, if you noticed any pronunciation mistakes, thank you for your patience. We strive to improve with every video, and speaking of videos, there's another one playing right now so you can continue exploring the geography of our beautiful world. But before you go, don't forget to subscribe and like so we can keep learning together. See you in the next one.